Okay, I just remembered one of the big questions I wanted to ask you. Why is President Trump fixated on the Panama Canal and on taking over Greenland for military and commerce positions? Can you help me and my audience understand? Because from a layman's term, it's like, okay, why is he trolling? Is this another "we're going to take over Canada" joke? Or is there some military strategy to Greenland and some economic strategy to him wanting the Panama Canal and Greenland?
Well, I just had a Gateway Pundit article on this topic. America has all the globalist elites that have run this country, our country, America, in fact, are actually horrible when it comes to international relations. And they're most horrible right with our own neighbors and right in our own neighborhood. They always blame us, mega people, of being like 1930s isolationists. It's classic projection. Okay, classic projection. We're not 1930s isolationists. We're going to put America first. Okay. And one of the first places America first should start, not only is in America, but with our own front yard and our own neighbors. We've been horrible neighbors. We've been actually, talk about isolationist, we've been missing in action in the Americas, Central America, Bahamas, Greenland. I mean, our foreign relations has been atrocious. Several of these countries, we've rarely had an actual ambassador. We've only had a charge d'affaires, which is French for "we don't really care enough about you to have an ambassador." I mean, it's horrible. So with Panama, actually, and I've done a number of writings on this, and I'm working on another article. I was just talking to an America's expert just before the call here. And it's about there's two treaties in relation to the Panama Canal. There's the handover treaty, that's done. There's the enduring treaty. Well, there's some significant language in essentially what you would call the addendum section that gives the United States a significant role in operations, proper operations of the canal and security of the canal. Well, we've almost waived those rights. We've almost waived those contractual terms and conditions because we've been absent from Panama. 2001, we walked away. We've been gone for almost 25 years, most of that without even an actual ambassador. Okay. So the Panamanians are going, what happened to the Americans? Where did the Americans go? Okay. They want to be a sovereign nation. They wanted the canal. In many ways, the canal is better operated and more efficient than when it was under American control. I'll be totally honest. It's been greatly expanded under their supervision. But again, there's actual elements and language in the enduring treaty that gives America a role in operations and security of the canal. But we've been gone. We just walked away. So we're gonna have to get back into Panama in a positive and diplomatic way. Starting out, the president has already appointed. His name's escaping me. I don't have it on my note sheet here, but he's from the Miami area. He's going to be awesome, and that's we need an ambassador that Panama can turn to, and they know they have somebody who will have their back, because frankly they haven't had anybody for 25 years or very infrequently. And that's the reason we created a vacuum. We walked away. And after a few years, China says, well, if you don't care, we do. And we're going to offer them, and we're going to flood them with infrastructure projects, most of which have been CRAP and haven't actually completed. But we need to that the new ambassador, I think, is going to be a breath of fresh air. But there is an absolutely contractual and treaty role for the United States. We just haven't played. We've been missing in action for 25 years. Now, you didn't mention Bahamas, but it's Herschel Walker's been named as the ambassador to Bahamas for since they've been independent since Britain in 76, I think it was. They've infrequently had a U.S. ambassador, couldn't care less. And again, the Chinese are all over the Bahamas. The Chinese run the Bahamas because we didn't care. We didn't care. Herschel Walker is going to change things. Now, Greenland, there's a lot of misunderstandings on Greenland. Greenland is not owned by Denmark. For Denmark to even say they own Greenland is actually factually incorrect. Look at the actual treaty between Greenland and Denmark, and look at the Greenland website. It says right on their website, we are on a path to 100% full independence from Denmark, being we are our totally own country. Now, they're kind of technically for foreign affairs underneath Denmark, but for everything else, they are their own country. And there again, China has come in. There's 58,000 citizens of Greenland, most of them Inuit, native Greenlanders. Denmark really hasn't cared. The United States, we almost walked away from our air base and missile early warning at Thule, up about mid island on the west coast of Greenland. Again, lack of interest in our own neighborhood, in our own front yard. Again, America first. We're going to take care of American citizens, but don't forget we have a front yard with neighbors, and we need to be a good neighbor. And we frankly talk about isolationism. Boy, those big talking globalists, where have they been? They've been nothing. They couldn't have cared less about what was going on in Mexico, the Americas, Bahamas, Greenland, or anywhere. Now, Canada, yeah, and again, is Trump trolling them? Yeah, you bet. And it's very effective international relations. It's very effective international relations. Everybody's going, oh, he's using X or Twitter to make political statements. Oh, that's horrible. Well, it's a lot better than what these worthless globalists have been doing, which has been doing nothing or ignoring or been creating vacuums. Now, Canada, what did President Trump say? 2% of GDP for defense spend isn't enough anymore. It has to be 5%. And then who is the worst of the 32 NATO countries? Well, Canada's not exactly the last, but they're very close to it. 1.4%. Trudeau is an embarrassment to Canada, and about 90% of Canadians will say that. And that's where you have Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, a Canadian. He says, hey, you bet we'd love to talk to you about a new relationship with America. You bet. And a lot of Canadians would. And any Canadian who gets angry about it is one of the few remaining people who thinks Trudeau. Trudeau's very close to being run out of office. He's been a tyrant. He's been, talk about the J6ers. He went after the truckers in Canada viciously, just destroyed many of their lives, took away, just seized their property and bank accounts, and horrible. So no, this is effective international relations, and it's America first means not only American citizens. It means we got to remember about our front yard and backyard and our neighbors. And we've done a horrible job on that. And I think it's going to be a great new day with President Trump. And these countries are going to appreciate American interaction because, frankly, they've had almost little except lecturing from the Obama Biden folks. And they couldn't care less about the lecturing.
Yeah, my understanding was, like with Canada, Trump says, we're basically supplementing them $100 billion a year. Well, why not just become a part of America? We'll lower your taxes. We'll give you the military protection. And then with Panama, I got the distinct feeling that this was like how important the Suez Canal is to the world. Panama Canal is very important to America. And if they're price gouging us, that means it's making life more expensive for America. But then if China is coming in and China makes a move on something that would cost Americans more money, I can see very clearly why Trump would want to protect the Panama Canal. And part of that is maybe to rile them up, but then deepen our relationship with them, versus right now, maybe they feel like he's going to send the military and try to co-opt it, take it back. I don't think that's what he wants to do. I think he just wants to make sure that that canal is available for America, and that we're not being, that we're not paying through the nose for something that we gave them as a once in a lifetime gift that has benefited their economy probably more than any other one thing.
Yeah, well, Molino, the new president of Panama, who swore in July, he's a populist, just like Milei of Argentina, just like Bukele of El Salvador. He's a populist, and he actually is kind of pro-U.S. But again, we're digging out of a 25-year hole of non-existent relations. A lot of this, 70% of the traffic is related to America. But this is also part of the problem is most of that traffic is carried on non-U.S. ships. That's part of reindustrialization, creating a U.S. flag, a pervasive and large U.S. flag merchant fleet, which we got 60 Jones Act ships. That's it. There's 8,000 merchant vessels in the world, and we have 60. And we're the largest economy. There's a problem with this picture here. So, but again, if we had been far more involved in Panama and didn't just evaporate and disappear, we would have been far more involved in the pricing of what's going on down there. But also Molino knows Panama would not exist if it wasn't for the Panama Canal. And just while the Chinese are at the same time trying to control Panama, they're also trying to put the canal out of business. They're squeezing Molino down there because they're threatening him. Essentially, they're actively working on a land bridge, 2 different land bridges across Mexico from ports where his ships come in, unload by rail, go across the Mexican peninsula to the other side. So they're working on alternatives in Canada, or excuse me, Mexico. They're working on alternatives through Nicaragua. They're working through alternatives that now that Colombia has fallen to a Marxist leader across the top end of Colombia. So at the same time, they're trying to control the canal. They're trying to essentially put the canal out of business. And Molino knows that if the canal is out of business, Panama is out of business. So we're kindred spirits in this in a lot of ways. We're digging out of a 25-year hole of essentially Zippo relations where we were not even an afterthought, and yet China and the UN set up base camps in Panama. The World Economic Forum. Why? Because we just walked away, and this is the price. So America first is not an isolationist America. We're going to have good relations, and we're going to be good neighbors. But we're climbing out of a 25-year hole of nothing.
Okay, that actually makes a lot more sense. I didn't realize that China was trying to bypass by going to Nicaragua and Mexico. That's really interesting. I read a book one time, and then I'll wrap this up, but they said the number one thing that made commerce more affordable for humans was floating. So the ability to float things on a boat. So this idea of, bringing it, going over a land bridge, getting it back on another ship, America, if anyone can do it and rebuild that relationship, it's Trump. And like you say, giving some time and attention is going to go a long way, especially if it's a populist president there in Panama. Colonel Mills, thank you so much for spending time with me today, helping me and my audience understand some of these big stories. If people want to follow you online, where can I point them towards?
Thank you, Stephen. So I'm Colonel Rhett John 2, Colonel R-E-T John 2 on X. Colonel Rhett John 2 on X. And then on Substack, I am Colonel Rhett John. So just Colonel Rhett John without the 2 on Substack. Colonel Rhett John on Substack. Also on Getter on Truth as Colonel Rhett John.
Okay. I'll put those direct links down below so that people can find you easily. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Stephen. You too. Take care.